I am Arfi and this afternoon we are here at the Mumbai International Film Festival for a panel discussion about the challenges and triumphs of international co-production. We extend our gratitude to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, the National Film Development Corporation and the Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute, Kolkata. The session explores the hurdles and victories in international film co-productions, highlighting the cultural, legal and logistical challenges as well as the advantages of diverse collaborations and global reach. Join me in welcoming our distinguished panel with once again a round of applause as I call upon Mr. Nila Madhab Panda sir, a well-recognized documentary filmmaker and a Padma Shri awardee. Joining him we have Mr. Prithul Kumar sir, Joint Secretary Broadcasting, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting and Manager Director, National Film Development Corporation. With them, we also have Ms. Golda Sellam, a film consultant, programmer and producer based in France. Joining them, we have Mr. Nilotpal Majumdar, sir, a film academic and president of Documentary Resource Initiative. And joining this panel, we have Mr. Alexei Yury, sir, General Director of National Film Studio, Belarus. And moderating today's discussion is Mr. Arfi Lamba sir, an accomplished actor and producer, co-founder of Bombay Berlin Film Productions. May I also now request Mr. D. Ramakrishnan sir, General Manager, National Film Development Corporation, to felicitate our guests. Well, a session post-lunch hours surely calls for a more energized and a louder clap. May I now please hand over to Mr. Arfi Lamba sir to commence today's insightful panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Welcome everyone. The attendance in post-lunch session is amazing. Thank you for all for turning up. I'll start with you, Nila sir. Padma Shri awardee, 4 national awards. You've been working on this space for the longest time. You know, how has it been, and what do you think with the new funds that are coming in place from India? How is it going to be easy for the journey? There are a lot of young filmmakers here, so you know your insights will be very, very helpful.
Thank you. Well, I would start with this, that today, globally, as Indian producers sitting here are more powerful than anywhere else on earth. The basic reason is when we think of co-production, we always think of first is money. Where would the money come from, you know? But as co-production, I would say the first thing we should think is right partnership. So money comes later. If you have a right partner, like let me give you an example. You know, my first 7 feature films, I never get funded by anybody. So I was a forceful producer. I'm essentially a writer director, but I become a producer because nobody gave me money. So then you have the easier procedure that is beg, beg, borrow, steal, sell, whatever you make the film happen, you know. But now it's much more easier. But within the easier also, it's much more difficult because the funds are now all over the world, especially in Europe where we used to depend on funds, now totally dropped, you know. And if you get also, it's like $100,000, $500,000 like that. So where I think the easiest thing as Indian filmmaker, independent filmmaker, we should try and see what is a universal story, Indian story, which you can sell outside, and have more dependency on Indian funds and get funds from Europe or anywhere with that funds which can help us in terms of selling the film outside, in terms of getting selected into a tier 1 festival like Cannes, Venice, Berlin, something like that. That becomes easier. As an independent filmmaker, I was advised that, you know, have that little bit of, and second thought also that to get an institutional fund, don't think that co-production and funding is so easy from Western world, you know, because they have a cycle once or twice a year, and that takes a lot of time. Once you get also the paperwork, everything, it's like a 2 years process. It's better to get an equity fund. Okay.
Back to Golda, you know, he raised a very valid point, and I've closely worked with Indian funding system, which is a very new system right now, but I think we've kind of made one of the best systems in terms of applications, in terms of disbursement of funds. But this is the feedback that we get from a lot of filmmakers from India, young filmmakers, especially new ones who are trying, that the funds from Europe have not always been kind or easier to get. There's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of, the competitiveness is a lot more, everybody applies to them. So now that earlier Indian filmmakers would not have anything to bring on table. You know, we would just come saying, you know, we need a French fund, we need a German fund to make our film. Now we have a lot of money coming from our home ground also. How does that change the perception of Indian filmmakers towards a European fund? You know, does that make it easier, better collaborations?
Namaste. I would like to thank first of all NFDC and of course the MIFF organization. A special thank for Guri Nair and all our team. I wanted to say it first. Then, regarding the question you ask, it's a very, how can I say, complex, because your point of view can be taken in, but I have maybe another point of view. In fact, we realized since about 20 years that European Commission has set up some co-production incentive or fund incentive to dynamize producers from all over Europe in order to produce some creative film which would be of a high quality that every European producer or countries will be able to be proud of. That's a point. Then France was the first country who set up a scheme which can help young talent from development, writing, production, and distribution. This scheme has been made 20 years ago, even ahead. And this has helped young talent to get professionalized, because you can have a good idea, a good script, you can have a full energy and talent, but this is a business, and this is also an industry. It's very difficult to cope with art and industry. So I think that all the incentive which has been made in co-production in Europe has dynamized most of the cinematographic and documentary production, and also that we can see that some film from India now, for instance, this year in Cannes has a Grand Prix. If you see the financing of the film, you can see that there is 2 French productions, some German fund, some Holland fund from Holland. So this film, also the talent was Indian, and also she made a really good film which has been recognized all over the world. She had to go to Europe in order to develop a project. So it's very complex for me, because I think that independent film in independent producers in India do not have, I'm so sorry, I do not criticize, but I think there is some funding, but I think they need really some funding in any layers of the production, which is development, writing, production, and distribution. I found also that there are very few producers. I mean, what we said about producers, there is no school for producers. And in fact, a real team is a producer, an author, and a writer. Because how can you deal if you want to make your film and you are producer, writer, and
No,
film director?
We have producing course in FTII. We have a producing course in SRFTI. We have Whistling Woods. A lot of private schools are actually training producers now. Definitely this was a lacuna. Even development seemed like a big lacuna in India, but I think our institutions, especially FTI and SRFTI, have been training in development quite a bit. But you definitely, development is something that the government is looking actively at and should look more into, because that's one lacuna that
I agree, but I just say that through my experience when I met a young team in, for instance, Film Bazaar, which is a great initiative. And then you can see that some of the team, it's just a film director who wants to make a movie on a script. And I think we have to reinforce the skills of these young talents,
Definitely, definitely. Coming to you, Shantida, iconic Doc Edge, we all are such big fans, the way you've nurtured and worked with Doc Edge. MIFF is in its 18th year, and this has been such a big show this time, the government is supporting full time, and FTC has done such a great job. What are your thoughts? Because you've been working with documentary producers, directors for the longest possible time, documentary filmmakers. With these new funds coming into place, how do you think the scene's going to change for documentary filmmakers?
I'm not really aware that whether the new fund is coming. That's it.
So we've been shouting about the funds from
which fund you are talking
2022.
About?
The cash rebate that Government of India is offering to any kind of audiovisual project that's going to be shot in terms of either a co-production or if a...
Yeah, I understood.
Yeah. Right.
Thing is that when you talk about co-productions, but I'm definitely talking about the documentary ecosystem, I don't have much idea about the fiction, you are talking about the best time in India, something like that. We are more privileged than anyone else in the world as a filmmakers to get funding from local funding, right? So the problem is actually there's no local funding available. Co-production only can take place where it's a kind of portion of money, investment that is coming, So it's only that investment can take place when you have little money with you. At least to develop the project, you are in the possibly the middle of your shooting, you have substantially you have gathered your material, one can really take decision on that. It's not really descending from the sky, The co-production opportunity has to happen when you have something, You have already progressed substantially. Now, for us, our filmmakers, independent filmmakers, the major problem is that we are making films in the country where the production support or the development support is absolutely zero. So, world is not attractive to us because where locally you do not get the support, it would be really atrocious dream, to expect that co-production money is coming. Having said that, with the last 5 years, you can say Indian documentaries are doing absolutely great.
Yes, sir.
That, of course, all the films that you can see that is traveling around and which is aesthetically is quite strong, and representing the Indian kind of as an kind of artwork, in a great way. Those are all the kind of outcome of co-production. But that co-production took place basically. I'll advise all of you, instead of looking at the kind of a very complex, challenging co-production scenario, one should look for grants. Now, one advantage from Indians, of course, that grants are not available locally, but global grants are very, very absolutely open. So the first idea to have a kind of funds, grants from the institutions, develop your project, go to the marketplaces, go to the incubators and pitching forum, do your networking, present your film, and definitely that is where your first dialogue starts. That's how you are really initiating the dialogue to invite really stakeholders, for further investment.
So what you feel is lacking right now is that probably we should have more incubators for documentaries.
Though incubators like the something
like MIFF's co-production market is a kind of incubator. We get the
market will not help, but is there actually the money available? Now, even in like the dockies, because most of the people are coming from outside, and the Indian producers also participate. The Indian producers are coming up with a kind of a maximum 10 lakhs and 100% right. But Sundance is offering you 100,000 USD.
Yeah, but to one project.
Yeah,
2 projects.
No, what I'm saying,
Right. No, I hear you.
No, I'm saying that there are 8 funds or 9 funds that Indian filmmakers can access to.
Right,
and
right.
It's a wonderful funds, no string attached to it, and
right.
no intervention also there. It's like you send 2 pager, and 3 minutes of play. 6 months later, they say, hey, submit your documents, we have to transfer the money to you.
No, that's great.
The thing is that we have to relook it, and Prithul ji is here, this is really important to understand our ecosystem, that we are working, incredible work has been happening, but we do not have local support.
Right.
And instead of, although this with the absence of local support, what we are able to really attract foreign investment into a project. Somehow, like the incubators and market will not help, unless we have the stakeholders, unless this considering documentary as an industry and people investing in it.
Right. Yeah. We had such a great session yesterday because MIFF actually got a lot of corporates with corporate social responsibility, inviting them and encouraging them to invest into projects that align with their values, like anything that is related to empowerment, environment.
CSR is very, very kind of shy and shaky in terms of documentary.
Yeah, that's why a push from the government side is very, very important for them. Coming to you, sir. You have come from Belarus. I understand that there is a close association going on right now. There's a cooperation that's being established between India and Belarus. So we welcome you here. And I would like to ask you, what is on the agenda? What all is Belarus bringing for Indian filmmakers?
Уважаемые друзья, я хочу поприветствовать всех вас от имени Республики Беларусь и поблагодарить за возможность показать белорусское кино в такой красивой республике, как Индия.
Alexei Yury, director of Belarus Film, wants to congratulate you who have visited Mumbai International Film Festival, and we are here to present Belarusian films and have a cooperation in future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here, and I think everybody's excited to know more. I did heard when I was backstage, I was conversing with you that there are a couple of facilities that Belarus is offering, like there's a very big sound stage that you have and other.
Наша киностудия самая крупная в Беларуси.
We have a very big cinema studio in Belarus, Belarus Film.
Является национальной киностудией.
This is a national film studio.
Вот, и выполняет услуги по производству игровых фильмов, анимационных фильмов и документальных фильмов.
And it plays a role in creating or producing feature films, documentary films and animation films.
Большую часть продукции заказывает государство, Министерство культуры Республики Беларусь.
Majority of the films are produced for the government of Belarus.
Thank you, thank you. I think this will be another treaty that will be added to the 16 co-production treaties that India already has. This will open up new avenues for Indian filmmakers to look at a new territory and utilize those facilities in co-productions. The best part of co-productions will always stay that you can collaborate. The burden of the financing and production doesn't stay on one party and only on your country. And you end up making international films. You end up collaborating with your counterparts internationally, and the film's outlook becomes more universal. So I'll come back to Prithul sir now that
I think,
sorry.
It will be benefited to audience to know what treaty, what they are offering.
Treaties, yeah, and whenever the treaty is about, Prithul sir can shed some light if there's something he can say.
So with Belarus, the treaty is to be initiated and it is to be signed, and we are very, very thankful to the director of Belarus Film Commission to have initiated in such a big way, coming all the way from Belarus to this Mumbai International Film Festival. I am sure that the partnership is going to grow. I think,
sir, yeah, please go ahead about the discussion. No, I was asking you, I was coming to you only that, we have this new fund and this discussion is going on. I wanted your inputs now that you heard everyone.
So, a lot of fruitful discussions. I think both the sides, very, very important and pertinent points already spoken. What I feel is that co-productions has got many layers, as was being discussed. So probably the government's role in co-production is A, to provide the ecosystem so that you can find the producer of a right mindset, maybe a local in case, or maybe somebody which resonates with your documentary, animation, short, anywhere in the world. So that ecosystem is these kind of places. Like we have introduced the first documentary film bazaar where we want that more and more filmmakers should come be a part of it. I'm sure the students and the budding filmmakers would also get benefited from it. Finding the right sort of people, initially it may begin as if your aspirational leader, you meet up and then you sort of get together with him. It's simple networking in the beginning, but this ecosystem is very important. Otherwise, if you have to meet all the people you met in last 4 or 5 days, it will take you months to meet there. Such an ecosystem is there that's an initiative which we thought we need to take for documentary especially. And then of course we also have documentary portion in the Film Bazaar. So Film Bazaar, which happens along with the International Film Festival of India at Goa, that did not used to have documentary per se. It was only meant for feature films. But since last year we have also added the documentary portion of it. And we had kept only 5 curated documentary film projects which got selected out of about more than 50 or 60 which applied. But you will be happy to know out of that 3 are in active collaborations now because of whatever people they met at MIFF and all that. The other thing about co-production is when the government's intervention in starting to fund the projects. So locally also, the government of India has always been traditionally funding. In fact, in the campus which we are sitting right now, this is the film division. This used to be the film division campus, wherein it was all about documentary filmmaking and supporting the documentary filmmaking. And now this has been merged with NFDC. So now I can assure you that documentary still occupies a very, very important space for the government's agenda. 1/4 of the total funds which we allocate for domestic funding goes to the documentary format. The rest of it can be for other things, but 1/4 is still for the documentary format. Even after realizing that a feature film would require much more cost, maybe documentaries require a little lesser cost, but still it has been kept at that level. And besides the other compulsions that the northeastern region also requires some sort of some percentage of compulsory funding from the government, but still we have kept it at 1/4. So it's not that the documentary is getting negated. Another important point of co-productions is that when you are able to bridge the gap internationally, or you are able to find somebody internationally to co-produce that project, therein the government of India has introduced incentives 2 years back, which has been majorly enhanced to $3.6 million, which is a huge amount of money. I mean, Golda sitting here, she will say that we are no less than any other fund in the world right now, the kind of level of incentives which we are offering. So that empowers you to go ahead and converse internationally that, you can get me the fund from your country, and our country is also here backing you up with 30% to 40% incentives of whatever is getting spent in India. So it's a great empowerment of the filmmakers. And I'll tell you, in November we enhanced these incentives to what I just said is $3.6 million. And from November to June, maybe 6-7 months, we already have cleared 34 of them. So that's a huge influx which we are receiving now, and there's a lot of encouragement which I think the filmmakers do have, which I think Nila Madhab Sahab was talking about it. I think we should all start, we already also have put up a stall of Film Facilitation Office. I think some of you can also pay a visit there.
I think on top of it, there's one of the interesting part of these funds, which I know very well, that's why I was speaking, is 50% of it is disbursed before you finish your productions, which is not there in many funds, So for you to know.
Also, there's a, there's an FFO stall here. There are people, all the officials are available here to talk, but I often feel that young filmmakers and new people feel that funds are announced, but we don't know about it. There is a very simple process. Everything is out on the website. You just go on NFDC website. Under that, there's an FFO section. That FFO section not just lists all the treaties we have, it lists in simple maps and graphs how to access that money. It's not rocket science. It's been made so easy. Also, because we are a new fund, I think the executives looked at every possible fund and the way to make it easy and accessible. And it's made kind of automatic. It's not like somebody can or cannot give. It's like Indian filmmakers going through a national permit are all entitled to the funds as per the certain regulations. This is something that, if somebody, probably any youngsters of you come and tell me that we don't know, I'd literally like to shout at you, go and study. There is something made available for you. All you need to do is go sit down and study. And that's a process of funding that works anywhere else. These application processes, when we do, they seem tedious. But often what they do is when you write an essay about what I want to do as a filmmaker, what is my producer's note, you get to know your product better, you get to make a better film. These are the processes that are not very difficult and they're made available. So I'm actually coming to a very interesting point, because we are talking about documentary and co-productions. Often documentaries are being thought of as a specific local subjects. My point is that now environment, says a subject like environment and empowerment is globally, something that affects somebody sitting in Belarus, it will affect somebody in India later on. We are globally, we've become a village. How do you see that coming into documentaries? Do you see a more collaboration on environmental documentary? Do you think bigger documentaries will happen with this one? What's your take on this, Golda? I mean, we are no longer a France and an India. We are so much of a common one world right now.
Yes, I agree. Of course, we are globally touched, but local project, local subjects seems to appeal to a larger audience. Sometimes when we, in documentary especially, because it's live translation of the issues of people, if I can say that, and in fact, I found that most of the films from outside Europe, we are touched by their own issues, their own problem, but it's so specific. That's how we are interested in. I think local and then get universal. I just wanted to say, to add up to what you say, 10 years ago I was in Open Doors. It was a special Indian focus. Then I met Alkara Kuram, who is a documentary from next to Calcutta, I think. And she had a very beautiful project. It was about, the title is Burqa Boxer. And she was head of the time, now we are talking about rapism and violence. And I wasn't working with documentary, and I said, oh, I like your project, I may help you. Then this project went to Film Bazaar. That was 10 years ago. I saw her again, and that's how we collaborate. And I brought a French co-producer and a Swiss co-producer, and she made her film. And as she was an artist, at Open Door opening, we made an installation with gloves and all of that. What I mean is that this workshop, like open doors, or even I think Film Bazaar is very, very helpful because it gives you universal way of collaborating, and the input of European, for instance, producer can optimize the project. Because in fact, most of the time when we have the script, we love the story, but the script is not ready, not at all, not to get money anywhere. So in fact, it is true that it takes time. It is true that a European producer has to go to fund to get the money because we do not have equity. But I found that if we could help the Indian filmmaker to optimize the writing, all these sessions, I know they are very good scripts, but we can optimize them in order for them that if they have, for instance, equity, they have state report, and you have your fund, then maybe that would be that strengthen independent production in India. And I think there are many talents, a lot of creativity, which is spoiled by energy wasted. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Like I wanted to specifically, like say, let's take a specific example. We have a project right now which is in the co-production market, which is about conserving water in deserts. So of course it's a local story, of course in Rajasthan deserts, we are seeing a lot of, in fact with the development of canals going in, still the older methods of conserving water are disappearing. Those kind of projects, won't they automatically translate into a French co-production? And because what we are trying to do is use ancient knowledge of saving water and making it more scientific and scalable. So won't that be something that is...
Yes, but there are many film directors who are touching this subject, and the slot of broadcast is very narrow. Right. So now what we can see is that the narrative documentaries now are going on theaters when they are made. So it's a mix of documentary and cinema. And we can see that this type of documentary is appealing to the audience. And we have also some new way of distributing this type of documentary. Theaters would take it for 1 week maybe when it's a good one. And afterwards you have all these non-commercial distribution. It's at university or club where people are dynamizing the story by talking to the social media and the audience to bring them in the theater to talk and see the project. So it's very complex because there are a lot of film directors, very great film directors who are touching this subject. So I think the best is when you like a project and you want really to go ahead with it, that's the best thing. You have to be motivated, passionate. So okay, we don't talk about water, never mind. If you are passionate and you have a good story, it will go across border.
That brings me to one specific point she said that, so this is from last couple of years, we've been hearing a lot about impact, documentaries and the actual impact that they make, and also a lot of these documentaries opening up the avenues of distribution and money making in educational institutions, like universities, like, other institutions that will license these documentaries from filmmakers and pay them, Would you like to, any one of you had that experience? Would you like to talk about it?
Before that, what Prithulji had said, I just want to little elaborate it on. Yes, it is actually the great idea to build up the ecosystem. And it would be possibly good that if there is a kind of fund, maybe it is definitely state fund, coming from NFTC, and I get the fund as a filmmaker and develop the project, to some extent, and that fund should allow me to have a kind of a co-production agreement, or access me, in terms of rights and availing for the funds, It really helps, So I have initial state funding locally, and maybe coming from NFTC, and then I start working on the project, I can really get further grants and funds and maybe the co-producers also. Now, in case of documentary co-production, everywhere is the public fund. It is not private fund, So, like the French money is coming, it's the French government money. They're supporting the producer, and this mandate is that possibly Golda is producing a film from France. She gets state money, and she's working with Nilotpal, me, okay? Something like that. Or second option would be, so I have already developed the project. I have little bit funding in place. Then NFDC comes up with a kind of possibly the finishing fund, and something like that, So this way, it would be really, we can keep the ecosystem going. And another thing, I believe that it's not state responsibility to change everything, So what state can do, they can really lend out this supportive hand, and like institutions and organizations, support them to create that activities, incubator or festival, whatever. All over the world it is happening like that. I think you must be aware of about the Creative Europe or EU Media Program, now Scottish, Creative Scottish, most of the countries, they have a kind of a national funds, and it goes to institutions, it goes to really like-minded kind of people, and kind of course there is a kind of compliance and the mandates are there, but at the grassroots level, the state support is going, and it is really helping to develop the ecosystem that is required to nurture the kind of filmmaking activism.
And I'm totally getting you, but I'm also feeling that there's an overlap, like exactly what you're saying, if I'm getting it, is that an ecosystem like Doc Film Bazaar, an ecosystem like Doc Edge, and you're saying that the government should also support other parallel ecosystems.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Now,
right.
See, now, even in Film Bazaar and Doc Edge, so we have participations from the local producers, but somehow we cannot blame them, They don't see that in the country of India, the documentary is a kind of a proper, viable investment to make, and somehow they will be able to monetize it, So naturally, it doesn't attract them. If it attracts them also, they will be talking about a very small amount of money. If really we want to really upgrade quality films, I need 2 to 3 years, to be with the space, my story space, and with the characters, I'll be following some people, or with the event that is happening. And also I want to engage and employ that kind of quality of craftsmanship, So that's why the resources are required.
Isn't that also a function of, as an industry, like what is viable in the market in terms of profits? Like our commercial films do very well, we do that theatrically. Internationally, in France, in Germany, the document is actually released in theaters and they make some money also. That becomes a part of their plan, their finance plan, that they have some recovery model. Indian audiences have typically veered away from documentaries. If I'm right, sir, the only space where documentaries used to come was Doordarshan for the longest possible time, showcasing them. So maybe, are we talking about, Nila sir, that somehow we need to do something towards the audience, get their interest into documentaries? How shall this lacuna be covered? Yes, no, please.
Just one thing
please,
I
please,
want to conclude, let's not blame the audience, because audience can imagine what documentary would be, and that kind of we couldn't build it up, and we couldn't share our kind of a work with the audience. One important thing is with the state partnership, like everywhere, at least initially for 10 years, more than a decade, documentary investment was considered by the state the investment for education or healthcare. So let's not think about the profit, monetization for the time being. You have to develop that ecosystem when we'll be really standing on our feet, and there's definitely automatically that vibrancy will be in place, and it will definitely attract further investment. So you create that atmosphere. Maybe this is initially, of course, and I believe that's everywhere it was initiated by the state, and it is successful,
I'm with you. Again, the only question will be that, there's more investment into it and we're making all those documentaries. Where are they getting exhibited? Where are the people who like them will go and click for them? I totally get you that, this has to be totally, in the beginning, supported.
Doordarshan is one of the finest channel and distribution network.
Biggest network
and
we have.
With Doordarshan, it's incredibly great kind of a network,
right,
and broadcasting system. So better than many countries, This is a kind of a fantastic thing we have in our hand. Just the Doordarshan, you reach out to the kind of billions of people,
Or
As an
only-
audience.
Yeah.
I just want to say that in France and Europe, each broadcasters have quotas of numbers of documentary or feature film to take and buy. So obviously, some of the curator has to buy a certain numbers of documentary to be seen on the broadcast. Yeah. So that dynamize the production and the visibility of the documentary.
Prithul sir, can we? I think in India they're all private channels, and we only have one.
No, wonderful suggestions. In fact, whenever we try you try to scale up the policies of the government, we definitely take all these stakeholder suggestions, and these are very valuable suggestions which are coming from the panel. And in fact, I would also like to tell that whenever the government is taking any step, we generally put it out on our website, and we invite even public feedback. So especially the documentary filmmakers or the filmmakers in general, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting is the custodian ministry of the sector. So we generally keep putting out things like that. Like for the first time, there was an accessibility standards made for the public exhibition of cinema, which has been done this year in March 2024, which is a great initiative. We were in stakeholder consultations for a long time, and so is this incentive revision. We took a lot of feedback, and then only we'll definitely work towards it also, and then we'd like everybody to chip in and give their feedback.
I think it's also wise for organizations like NFDC to support development of documentaries. The basic reason is, you see now there are a lot of OTT platforms who are attracted to feature-length documentaries, produce a quality film. They're taking, all over the world, and we have that space. And second, rightly, this is where you need co-productions. Co-production not in terms of just the funding, but if you have right creative minds from the other country, France, Germany, anywhere, you create a good quality documentary. I think we may have a long way to go, but it can be a good beginning at least, because since we don't have a market here, we don't showcase in the theaters.
I just want to say that the quality films are made, for instance, in France, we are very selective on the application, and they demand a lot of work in order to present your project, which means that the film director or the producer has to really work on it. It's a work, and it takes a lot of time. It is not just a paper and a budget, and that's it. So if we want to professionalize the production and the team, producer, film director, they have to be taught how to reply to this application. And the application should be quite sophisticated, I'm sorry, not selective, but selective enough in order to support the best ideas and the best project.
I have a little different take on that always, because India is such a diverse country, and our filmmakers often, the language, the whole diversity that we deal with, people come from different languages, and expression is so different that to make it super competitive is one way of it, and to make it more creative is another way of it. That's. I'm with you. Yes, I'm with you on that. Yes. So shall we open the panel to? Or I'd like to come to you before we open the panel, Yury. So how has it been for you at MIFF? First of all, how was the experience here?
Почти как дома, очень гостеприимно.
Absolutely at home.
Только немного жарко.
Welcome. No, we are happy that you felt.
Only a little bit hot.
Right.
Wow.
And I wanted to talk to you about co-productions. Now that we are going ahead with the having a cooperation. Yeah. So how is it in Belarus? Do you release films, or are documentaries released there? Are we expecting a cooperation where our films will travel to both countries, and we can release our films there, we can have your films here? What is it that we can do?
Да, у нас есть индийские фильмы, и нам очень нравятся.
Indian films.
Да, и самое главное, вот наш визит на этот фестиваль мы хотим договориться, чтобы снять совместное кино с Индией и через этот фильм показать наши традиции, нашу культуру индийскому народу.
At this film festival, we have decided to show Belarus films regularly in future in Mumbai or any other places to show their culture about people and country.
И, пользуясь случаем, у нас тоже проходит фестиваль кино по 6 разным направлениям, в том числе по документальному кино.
In Belarus also they are going to have a film festival in November with 6 genres, including the documentary films also.
И он будет 1 ноября в этом году, и я очень приглашаю всех кинематографистов Мумбаи, Индии принять
Belarus
участие.
Film Festival will be starting from 1st of November, and we open-heartedly inviting all of you to the
Ему тоже.
film festival, including yours.
Фестиваль называется «Листопад», ему тоже 30 лет.
Festival is named as Listopad, which is the foliage. It is already
30 лет.
It is going already 30 years every year.
И в прошлом году в анимации победил индийский фильм под названием «Зоопарк».
Last year, Indian film won the first prize in Belarus Film Festival, which was named as Zoopark. So they have already Indian films showing.
Do you plan to start a market there? Do you plan to start a film market there? You know, maybe we can start a cooperation with Indian Belarus films and filmmakers.
Возможно, мы готовы проработать это.
Yes, we are possibly we will be working towards that, opening the market for Indian films.
Мы будем готовы это обсудить на фестивале в Гоа. И
At Goa Film Festival, we are going to discuss about that.
So that will be another avenue for Indian filmmakers, another market, another avenue to distribute your films. Thank you. Thank you.
Belarus film is a big name in not only in Belarus, in the Russian-speaking world.
Yeah, we were so happy and so grateful that you made time and came here. So, shall we open the panel to questions? Anyone has any question? Tina?
Thank you very much for all your inputs. As a filmmaker myself, I just want to bring to your notice that it takes a lot of time and efforts to develop a documentary, or even if it's a feature film, to make a visual piece for the people to look into. And if there are no grants in India for documentary film, and even for these cash incentives, we have to make a visual piece or write a script. So that takes a lot of time, you know. So if we are just, dedicatedly doing that, so how, I mean, if the state doesn't support, or if there's no other stakeholders that are coming forward, it's very, very difficult, you know. Even to include, these, to get benefits of the cash incentives, there has to be a script, it has to go to a script lab, and it takes years and years of, lot of time and efforts. So, if there is some kind of a seed funding from the state, some kind of initial grant that we can apply for, and that, of course, it's an open call that you put for the merit of the filmmakers and the film. I think it will be greatly beneficial for all the filmmakers, irrespective of whether it is a fiction or non-fiction, because in the end, it's the same amount of time and effort that gets into making, a piece of the documentary, or the script. So, what do you think about that?
Let me answer that. I think it is pointed to me, although she didn't mention. But so see, this question has actually been answered by Golda. She said that it's not just a paper in which you write the budget and the name of the film and we can sanction it. That's not what happens. She said it particularly. It's a very, very intensive process of very, very competitive selection. Understand one thing from the point of view of the government. This is government's money is not anything else but public money. It has to be spent on the right cause. So there has to be a fair evaluation, and for that, script forms the basis of understanding and comparing the projects. I think that is how it is done elsewhere also in the world. That yeah.
I just want to add something. There are different layers. There is a script writing layers where you have to, of course, present a synopsis, why you want to develop it. There is support for that. There is support also for development, which is when you have done already more or less your script, you have to do research, and you have to go, for instance, to some places. You have to meet some people. That demands a lot of research, and there is some support for that too. So on each layers of the production and development, you have some support. Then there must be a scheme where you can give the money and get the money back. That's the way that the French do. Maybe we can think of something similar. It will take time, but at least this will make it going for every year. And I think the fact that you in India have equity money can be really good, because you put equity money and some state money and that incentive. Would you want more? I mean, you do it.
So yes, that thing that probably we have to get into that level-wise, layer-wise kind of distribution. We can definitely take up that suggestion. That's a very fair suggestion. But I think it should not deter people that you have to have that intent of detailing the script, working on the script. In fact, when we travel internationally and we speak to the international producers or directors, they have one thing to tell about the Indian filmmakers, which we should take it positively, that we need to really work on the script more and more. That is what the feedback we kind of get, because a lot of people they pitch internationally and this is the kind of feedback. So yes, it should be made a point that script well done is like a job half well done. It gets you funding also. It gets you it gets you easy shooting and easy conceptualization also.
Rama sir, you want to add something?
I just want to ask one question to Golda. Golda, this is just to continue with what you were saying about the development. Unlike feature film you have a script in hand. Before you go for shoot, you have a complete script. But in documentary, most of the time the story happens in the situations. It's because we are going to capture the realities, the actualities of. So the development happen in this second stage, go to the set and then you come up with some new ideas, new thoughts. So how you attract especially international co-production, because the funding. You have any option at the later stage also, or how with the initial idea can fetch the funding? Because the development, it's a progressive, kind of, yeah.
You are talking about the French people? You are talking about the French. In fact, there are so many film directors who applied. Not everybody has some money, but we have the broadcast to give development money too. So there is CNC, there is a broadcast. So only those I think who have producers, they are helped, I think, because I think that if there is a producer, they can be reassured that the film will be delivered and will be done in such a way that the money is not wasted. It doesn't mean that on the development level we don't take teams like film directors and writers. We do take them, but that is through the document they give and how we evaluate it. There is commission from some broadcasters and also some producers who have been shown their reputation, if I may say, and who can give us who can vote for the project or not, select the project or not. That's how it is, yeah.
I think Rama sir was asking something different, which is that
Sorry.
when we start a documentary, suppose I'm starting a documentary to cover Sundarbans or the backwaters of Kerala, and once I go in, that's the grant I got for. Because documentary is an ongoing process. I realize that the more interesting story or the more impactful story will be that I take the story of one boy who lived there, who lost his house, you know. So the whole documentary structure changes because it's an evolving structure.
Yes.
How do you, as a fund, if there are funds, you know, how do they deal with that when the parameters have changed? And that's, right, sir? That is what you were asking. Is that okay or not? Yes.
I understand it, but not totally. I don't understand totally the question.
The thing is that this script is not word, you know, and it's just concept and treatment, you know. And co-production doesn't take the civil lights. In CNC, you are talking about Art of France, you know. You need to have at least 20 minutes cut that you are sending to open up the dialogue. So it comes much later, co-productions. So you have to have a substantial material based on which one can take a wise decision. So it is much later, you know. So it's a concept in here that we develop it, we further shoot, you know, we edit something, you know. Then the question of co-production is coming, you know. Then only the stakeholders are really interested about the project and they understand it in a deeper way. They can internalize it and then
that is what the whole discussion is gearing towards, that for documentaries maybe not just a co-production fund, we may need a prior development incubation fund.
Set funding, you know, that's okay.
Yeah. My last question to Alexei, Yury. Alexei, just wanted to know for what is the advantage of the Indian filmmakers coming to Belarus to shoot? What attractions you have?
Ну, у нас пока помощь финансовая.
Right now we have a financial assistance.
Пока в проработке государством какие-то возвраты финансов, ребейти и так далее.
Yes, it is already there.
Как только будут приняты законы у нас, то мы готовы рассмотреть этот вопрос.
The rules will be made, they will make rules for the providing financial assistance and all the other assistance to producers.
На данный момент пока у нас возвратов финансов нету, но
right now we don't have any such program.
Но в рассмотрении это находится.
But they are seriously thinking about that. They are in the process of making rules and regulations for this.
Just to finish the question, because now I understood, there are a lot of filmmaker and producer was nearly finished the documentary, and then they present it to the channel, and they decide, they say, okay, I like your final cut, let's say, and I will go into it. But some are not supported ahead, you know, not all of them are supported ahead, but some can be supported backwards, as you said. Yeah.
We have maybe time for two more questions. Yes, and just take this last question.
Thank you so much for the valuable insights. I had a quick follow-up to the comment or the suggestion that Golda has made, specifically for TV having a mandate of buying, say, 5 documentaries. So can this be extended to, say, a multiplex, say a PVR or whatever, in a Tier 1 city, where you ask for a slot, say 10 to 12 on Thursday, that you will screen specifically documentary. This could start as an experiment, say in the month of, say, April or whatever, when the time is there. And then, secondly, while this is being formulated as a mandate, it goes through the government rules, checklists, discussions happen in the bureaucratic process. In the interim, can the filmmakers also approach the multiplexes for this kind of slot? Again, this could begin as a dialogue, wherein, say, they would propose maybe Thursday is not a good time slot, go for Wednesday 4 p.m. Can something of this work across? Because whatever I've heard so far, the screen part is also a big challenge because there's no viewer. So can this be interim, like a temporary solution to begin with, while we fix the bigger things in place? So it's a twofold question. One is the government maybe making a mandate, while on the parallel, the filmmakers also approach these multiplexes to figure out at least one slot, maybe a week, maybe a month, and then maybe take it ahead. So thank you in advance.
I'll first request Golda to tell us what happens in Europe.
In Europe, of course, there is these broadcasters who have some slots, but there are 2 or 3 theaters who release some documentaries, but there are very few, but they do it. Yeah.
So both of these form as an input suggestion to us, but then I would also like to tell you that as a filmmaker, everybody is free to approach, nobody is stopping anybody to approach the exhibitor. The second part, when we are talking about a right which is infringing on anybody else's right, we have to sort of think about it. We have to have a considered opinion.
Suggestion, why don't you all young filmmakers gather together and reach, say FICCI. FICCI is another body. We can go to them. Everything may not be, government may not be able to do from the top for every small thing and step up for us. But they can make a mandate, they can push it, and then you all are young people, change the world. Yeah? So thank you. Thank you, Nila sir, thank you, Shantila, thank you, sir, thank you, Golda, thank you, Yury, being on the panel. I think it has been informative. If there's anything else, you can catch everyone around here and talk more. Thank you for being such a great audience. I hope it was informative.
On a very encouraging and positive note, I would also like to thank our moderator for guiding this session and all our panelists for being there. We also acknowledge the National Film Development Corporation for hosting this festival under the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. And I would also like to request the audience to please remain seated as we are gathered here for a very special and a very brief session in order to honor the participants of our animation workshop. This animation workshop was held during MIFF, and it has been a hub of creativity. Aspiring animators have delved into the art of storytelling through motion, learning the nuances of crafting compelling visuals.